Let's move on to the outlet baffle filter. Not all tanks have one, but if you do, you want to make sure it's not clogged. You may add an outlet baffle screen if your system has the plastic outlet baffle. This will help protect your pump and drain field.
Don't remove a filter if the water level is too high. Solids and extra effluent may enter your drain field.
Using a hook tool, hook the lip of the filter and pull it up slowly, about halfway, and let it sit for 15 or 20 minutes to let any excess liquid flow through, and allow time to let any solids that have stirred up to settle. Okay, this filter doesn't look too bad. Carry it over the bucket to the inlet side of the tank, turn it upside down and gently hose it off to clean it from the bottom. Try not to splash. If it looks good, put the filter back into the outlet baffle. If you have a yellow Tough Type brand filter, you'll want to dip the filter into a bucket and pour the liquid into the inlet side of the tank. Make sure the arrow is pointed toward the drain field when reinserting the filter into the outlet pipe. Your filter might look different than these. If you're uncomfortable cleaning the filter, have it cleaned by a professional. Pressurized systems have a pump tank. If you have a pressurized system, you'll need to open it to inspect as well. What we want to do is observe the inner workings of the pump tank to make sure everything is in good working order. First, visually inspect everything. You don't want solids in the pump tank, and you don't want anything blocking the floats that turn the pump on and off. Make sure the floats aren't caught in any wires and that they can move freely. Some systems have fluid level sensors instead of floats, so don't panic if your pump tank doesn't have floats. The junction box is most commonly present in the access port over the pump in the pump chamber. Check the junction box for signs of corrosion or loose wires. The liquid level in the tank varies, but it shouldn't be full. If there's a basket screen, check to see it's intact and not collapsed. When you get your system pumped, have your pumper clean the basket screen. We're going to check the pump float to make sure it's not hung up. With this pump, we can pull up on the floats with the scum stick. On other tanks, there's a control panel that usually has a switch that turns it on and off. Some control panels and float controls are not accessible to homeowners, so you may not be able to check your floats. Check that the panel has been watertight. Look for signs of corrosion and rusting. Check that there are no wires that look corroded or disconnected. If the interior of the panel is in bad shape, call a professional to check it out. Now we want to check the alarm float by lifting up the float. This should sound an alarm if the liquid level in the tank becomes too high. There's the alarm. Good. If you don't hear the alarm, you should have a professional repair it. Okay, if the pump tank looks good, check that one off the list. Let's put the lid back on and move to the next step. Your system may have a sand filter installed to pre-treat the effluent before it goes into the drain field. It's basically a large sandbox with a collection area at the bottom for the effluent, which is then pumped from a pump basin into the drain field. The sand filter should have an inspection port, which looks like a pipe. Open it up and look inside. It should be dry inside. If you see water pooling, you might have a problem. Call a professional. Also, check the pump basin and the sand filter. Check that the floats are able to move freely. Observe the liquid level in the pump basin. Liquid should not be above the underdrain or the highest float. If it is higher, then you need to call a professional. Okay, mark it off your checklist. You know the saying, the grass is always greener over the septic tank? Well, it should say, the grass is always greener over the drain field. If you don't know exactly where your drain field is located, check your as-built map or have a professional locate it for you the first time. First, your drain field shouldn't have any strong odors. If so, it might not be draining properly. If that's the case, or you have mushy or swampy areas, or areas with pooling water, or an uneven area where the grass is much greener, you need to get a professional to inspect your drain field. If you have a cesspool or seepage pit that's failing, you'll know it. There will be sewage surfacing. Otherwise, there isn't anything to inspect because it's all underground. If your distribution box has a riser, open the riser and check to see if there are solids in the D-box. If solids are present, you may want to have the D-box pumped out. Also check that the D-box is level and that there is equal flow to all drain field lines. If the D-box is tilted or the outlets are not at the same level, you'll see that only part of your drain field is receiving effluent. In that case, call a professional.
A professional may be able to install speed levelers to ensure equal flow to drain lines. Also, have risers installed so you can inspect your D-box.
If you know you have a D-box and can't find it, contact a professional. If the drain field and inspection ports are dry, then you're in good shape. Check them off your list. Again, look for the inspection ports in the drain field. If there's water standing in the inspection ports, it may be because the system just got a dose. If the ports are constantly filled with water that never drains, call a professional. If you have a mound system, those big mounds in your yard are your drain field. Walk around the mound and look for soggy wet spots at the base of the mound. If you see them, you may have a problem, so contact a professional. Mounds usually have inspection ports. Open them up and look inside. If it's draining properly, there shouldn't be standing water pooled up inside. If there's water, the system may have just been dosed. If there's water that hasn't drained out over time, say 2 hours, then there's likely a problem, and it's time to call in the pros. If it looks nice and dry, check it off your list. Okay, that's just about it. Not too bad, was it? Time to clean up.